Hello and welcome to Austin Opera's live from Indy Terrace weekly broadcast. I'm Nathan DePoint, the Senior Director of Artistic Operations with Austin Opera, and it is our pleasure to spend the month of March celebrating Women's History Month by highlighting several talented women that we've worked with over the years. I am beyond thrilled at this week's guest. This is a position that, if everything goes well, goes unheralded. However, it is one of the most critical pieces to the opera production puzzle. That, of course, is the stage manager. Kathleen Edwards is our production stage manager and has been with the company since 2005. She started as an assistant stage manager, but has been calling shows in the primary chair since 2010. Kathleen has guided many productions to the stage, and I can't wait for her to give you all, our audience, an insider's look at what it means to be a stage manager and how you can get there. Please welcome Kathleen Edwards to our episode.
Hello.
Hi, Kathleen.
Hi. So nice to see your face finally.
I know, it's great to see yours. Where are you right now in the world?
I'm in Arizona.
Okay. And have you been there for the last several months?
Well, we've been here for a few months.
Okay.
We actually spent a good chunk of last year in Florida.
Okay.
Yeah, so we were in Florida for a long time, and it was actually great. It was cathartic. Yeah. But then we were ignoring our home here. So
Got it.
We came back and soon I'm going to come see you in Austin.
I know. I can't wait. It's going to be so weird to have you back after over a year. It will have been over a year since we've been in the same space together. So
Indeed.
I can't wait to have you back and see your face, I guess, on Tuesday. Right?
Yeah,
for the first rehearsal.
Sure. Yeah, because Monday I have to have the COVID test.
That's right. So coming up for us and for you, getting back into the groove is our All-Star concert, which is being filmed for PBS, which is super exciting. Starring Isabel Leonard, Ryan Speedo Green, Sarah Gartland, and Chad Shelton, conducted by our principal conductor and artistic advisor, Timothy Myers, which we're super excited for. And then I don't know if you've heard the news, Kathleen, but we're doing a production at a racetrack.
What? That's crazy. I might have heard something about it.
You might have heard and also been involved in all the planning to get us there, and there's no doubt more planning to be done for sure.
Yes.
It'll be great. It'll be great to have you here so we can knock out all the final details before we load into CODA, Circuit of the Americas.
Can't wait to see it.
I know it's gonna be something. It's gonna be an amazing experience, and I know that the staff is super excited to be able to get back to producing. I know that our audience is ready to receive it and to witness what we do out there. So I think it's going to be a really fun, exciting time. But enough about the future. Let's talk about the past a little bit. So Kathleen, your role is our production stage manager. And that is kind of an unknown position. People know what you're talking about when you're talking about a singer. People know what you're talking about when you're talking about a conductor or a stage director. Those have very specific visual identities when you're looking at a production, at opera production. But stage manager, that's kind of a gray area, and people don't necessarily understand what that is. So this episode is an attempt to kind of enlighten and clear that gray away for our audience. So let's dig in. What got you started in stage management? Did you go to school for this?
It was actually I fell into it by accident. I did not know what I wanted to do when I was looking at colleges. And so all I knew is that I wanted to go to school in New England, which is where a lot of my family is. So I picked a liberal arts college, and I just went in and started working through the core curriculum. And at the time, in the core curriculum, you could either take 2 semesters of math or a semester of fine arts and a semester in speech communication and theater. And I'm like, I did calculus in high school. I don't want any more math.
I'm good. I'm good on the math side.
Sure. I don't want any more math. So I chose fine arts and speech communication and theater. And my sophomore year, I took intro to theater.
Okay.
And the instructor said, okay, we're doing Amadeus, William Schaefer. Now I've dated myself. And you have to either show up on this date for audition or show up on this date for a crew assignment. And I did not want to be on stage. So I showed up for the crew and then never left.
Okay.
And 3 years later, they're like, here's your diploma, please leave. So I ended up I just loved it. I absolutely loved everything about it. At first, I thought I wanted to be a lighting designer. So I was sort of working on that track. I have, to this day, I don't know how I got lucky enough, but I landed right after I graduated an electrics apprentice at Santa Fe Opera.
Wow.
And the apprentices were the follow spot operators. And so when we had our first dress rehearsal, I saw my first opera, which was
that was the first time you ever seen an opera.
Yes. Traviata with Sherry Grenewald as Violetta. Yeah, it was amazing. And they did 5 operas in the rotating rep like they do, and I loved them. And while I was out there, a friend I went to Boston College, which is not to be confused with Boston University, because Boston University has a big conservatory training program.
Right.
BC has a tiny little theater department, and that will come into play in this story.
Okay.
But a friend that I went to school with tracked me down and said, Boston Lyric Opera is looking for ASMs. You had said you wanted to stay in Boston, so you should apply. And so I did.
And for
our
audience, just to interject a second, ASM stands for Assistant Stage Manager.
Assistant Stage Manager.
Yep.
And I got the job, and it changed my life. I decided that was a much better fit for me than lighting design. And I had a fabulous first stage manager mentor that I worked with, and decided then that, you could say, well, I want to stay in Boston, so I'm going to take any theater job I can find that's going to keep me in Boston. And I said, I want to stay in opera, so I'm going to take any opera stage management job. And that's born the nomad lifestyle of freelance opera stage management.
Can you, it's amazing that you had kind of decided on, or you thought you had decided on this lighting designer path. Do you know what it was about stage management specifically that lured you in, that kind of diverted that path for you?
I think that a lot of people will make the assumption that stage management is not artistic, to do this thing.
Right.
And I actually sometimes get a little chip on my shoulder because singers and directors are able to work in other countries because they are artistic, and we need that specific artistry for this production, and stage managers are not. I think there's a very specific art to what I do, but it is a very different art than creating lighting design or being a director. A lot of people also think that a stage manager is just a path to being a director, and my brain does not work that way.
Those are two very different positions. Yeah.
It is. Yeah. I can keep track of what somebody else creates, but I don't create it that way.
That's interesting because when you talk about it as an art, it truly is, because as we all know, no performance is ever the same from performance to performance, or even no rehearsal is the same. So your role is almost a response artist, because you're responding to everything that is happening whether it's from the conductor with the pit or the singers on stage, and you have to keep track of all of those elements and be aware of how to adjust if you need to on the fly. So like that is such an integral high stakes position, really. I always kind of equate the stage manager to the engineer of the train.
Yep. I've been called
on the
that.
tracks, going in the right direction. Yeah, exactly. See, you've heard that. Exactly.
Yep.
And without that person, without you in that seat, no production would ever happen, period. And I think, making that statement is really an important one for our audience to understand, because often, the stage managers don't come out for the bow at the end of the production. They don't because they're calling the bows, because they're calling the curtains, they're calling the lights.
They're still going on back there.
Right, exactly. So it's a really interesting position that doesn't often get any light shown on it. So I'm so excited and thrilled to talk to you about this. I would love to, for maybe some of those that are watching today that are wondering, what are some of the important skills that they need to have, or they need to accumulate to maybe become a stage manager down the road? If there's a student watching, or if there's somebody that's considering stage management, do you have what are some of the main skills that you utilize every day, or that you kind of hold on your pyramid of skills for a stage manager? What are some of those that stand out for you?
Organization, communication. It doesn't hurt to have a poker face, which I'm still working on after all these years. And you say, sure, we can try that, when what you really mean is...
That sounds like a terrible idea.
Less people thinking that it might. I feel like a lot of what I do is translating. And I don't actually mean like from the foreign language. I mean like one person says, I want the prop to look like this. And the prop person hears something, and I recognize that they're not on the same page. And so I have to figure it out. In any number of scenarios.
Because as the stage manager, you're involved in every element of the production. So that includes the singers, that includes the orchestra, that includes the crew, our props masters, our lighting designers. You are truly the middle person, the middle of that wheel where all the spokes come off
like
of.
The communication link between all of the departments. And it doesn't mean that I have to be excellent at everything. It just means I have to understand it all and understand how it fits together. And communicate that to the other people. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's actually what I wanted to go back to really quickly. So Boston College, I had an amazing experience in their theater department, but it was a tiny, tiny little department, and they just kind of let me do what I wanted to do. So as an undergrad, I did lighting design, I did stage manage, I did scenic design. I never set foot in the costume shop. I never had to appear on stage. I never had to do what I didn't want to do because there were so few people that I got. Anyway, so after I graduated, I thought, well, I can continue to learn about stage management just by working for other stage managers. But if I want to be a good stage manager, I need to understand all of the other departments. And so I chose to go to graduate school. And my advisor, may she rest in peace, did not know what to do with me because she wanted to train people to be regional equity theater stage managers. And so I would say, she's like, let's talk about design meetings. And I'm like, but what happens when the set comes off the truck and it's older than you are and it doesn't look like the grainy pictures that you got? And she's like, that's interesting.
That never happens though, right? Everything is always as it appears.
Sure.
The magic of theater.
But so I went to learn how the other departments functioned. and to have to go through them. Like I took a makeup class, and the instructor at the end for the final, we had to make up our face as a character and explain it. And she looked at me and she said, "It's not very good, but you are not a master, so I will pass you." But now I understand.
Exactly.
I understand what the makeup designer goes through, and I understand what it means to sit in the chair and have the makeup put on. I understand what a fitting is involved in a fitting. I understand focusing lights and prop shopping and all of that. I don't have to be good at it. I just have to understand it.
Yes, and again, understand and communicate and pass that information to the people that are good at it, though I think that you're selling yourself short a little bit.
So maybe. I'm just, I mean, you can't do everything well.
Of course not.
So I play to my strengths, I guess. But that is, I mean, for some young up and coming stage managers, there are two paths. And this is why I chose the one, and my advisor, who actually was much better than I just made her out to be, recognized that she didn't have a lot of experience in what I was trying to do. Gotcha. But I was at the University of Cincinnati College Conservatory of Music, which has a fabulous opera program. And so she worked hard to create specific situations for me. I got to work with both of the opera directors who were out and having a professional career. I didn't have to take script analysis. I got to take history of opera and foreign languages and beginning piano and things that were more helpful for me as an opera person. So it's
wonderful that it was so tailored for you.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was amazing. Yeah. And so I also, while learning about all these other departments, I got to call some really big operas while being in the safety of, the academic bubble.
Yeah.
But, Don Giovanni is still Don Giovanni, whether it's in school or whether it's at the Met.
Right.
There's still certain things that happen in the story that you have to deal with. So
absolutely. So let's dive in a little bit further. So, as a stage manager, you mentioned it already. It's a nomadic life. So you don't live in Austin with us all year long. So during the process of bringing a production to life, we talked a little bit earlier via email about like what those possibly could be, that life cycle of a production, really. Mm-hmm. And so, we kind of settled on three arenas. There's the pre-production, which is before you arrive in that city. Then there's the rehearsal room. So that encompasses everything from like the production meeting through the final rehearsal in the rehearsal room. Mm-hmm. And then we move into the theater portion. So it would be really great. And then just want to promise our audience, we have a couple clips coming up, which are going to be super exciting, where Kathleen's going to call some shows. So it's great. It's great. But before we get there, just as a little teaser, let's talk a little bit about these different life cycles and what your responsibilities at each of these, or what a stage manager's responsibilities at each of these points are. So going back, let's talk about pre-production. So before a stage manager arrives in their city to work with Austin Opera, for instance, what's your role in that communication and in that planning cycle? And what are the things that you are really looking toward kind of settling before you arrive into that city?
I am always brought into the process after the production has been decided. We are going to do Tosca, and we are going to do it at this performance venue, and we are going to use this set, and here's our director, and here's the cast. Everything's already almost always set. So my job is to learn as much as possible of the information that's already in place, gathering, is this a remount? Is there archival paperwork? No, it's not. It's here. It's new. It's an old set, but we're using it in a new way. It's just gathering whatever information exists, cross-referencing, list of questions. How do you want to do this? How is this problem going to be solved? How is Tosca jumping going to happen? How many are in the chorus? All of that. And then to just study the score as much as possible. Especially if it's a new to me piece, like I just get a recording and listen to it all the time. Sometimes I pay attention. Sometimes I'm just listening to it in the background, but just getting really, really comfortable and familiar with it. Depends on what language it's in. If I need, or sometimes the score has an English translation. Sometimes it doesn't. Does that matter in this piece? I'm a very big proponent of stage managers follow the music, not the words. Sometimes there aren't. Sometimes you're doing Dutchman and the overture's 11 minutes long and there's no words. Or Rigoletto, there's a storm sequence with a bunch of lightning and no singing, but the lightning is written into the score, so it has to come at exactly the right time, the light cue. So it's just a lot of gathering information. I usually am in contact with email. Thank God email exists now. With, like yourself, the technical director, the director of production, the company manager, these people who are on staff and have been collecting information. It's then my job to make sure I get it from them so that I can start putting it all in my head.
Right. Because you're going to be, like we said before, you are the person in the room that everyone expects to know the answer.
Correct.
Right? So even if you don't, and I would say, like, you rarely come to me with a question because you have done all of the pre-planning and all of the pre-work before coming to Austin, which I so appreciate about you. And the professionalism that you bring to this is just top class. So I really appreciate that. So that's pre-production. We'll put that aside for a minute.
Okay.
Now we'll go into, we are starting rehearsals, and we are, everyone has arrived to Austin. We have had our technical meeting, which we have our production team meeting, and that includes all of our designers. That includes some key staff members. It includes conductor. It includes yourself and our other assistant stage managers, costumes. So all of the elements of the production are in a room. We have a meeting. We talk through everything. The director discusses his plan. And then we disperse from that meeting and we go into the first day of rehearsals.
Yes.
So take us away.
Okay. So usually it depends on scheduling concerns, which are, whatever. But usually there is first a sing through with the principal artists and the conductor and the music staff. We sing through the whole opera. They discuss, like, we're going to do this cadenza. We're going to hold this note. I'm going to conduct this in 2 instead of 4, whatever, so that everybody knows how it's going to be. And then we start staging. And
staging is really when the director takes control of of the rehearsals.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we have in the days leading up to the first rehearsal, we have taken the ground plan, we measure it with a scale ruler, and then we tape it out on the floor. So there's actually a fun song by Cake called "I Am an Opera Singer," and I stand on painted tape, and it shows me where I'm going and where to throw my cape. So that's it. And what we've learned, of course, is that the tape is really for us, and that a lot of times the singers don't pay attention to it. And then you get on stage and they're like, oh, there's a wall there. Well, yeah. But we knew there was a wall there always. Right. So we were planning to tell them, you can't go that way. You have to go this way. Right. We get props. Sometimes they're the actual show props. Sometimes they're just stand-ins or doofers, we call them. They're laid out, we're tracking this one enters here and exits there, but then it needs to come back around because it's going to come this way again. We track everything. We track every entrance and exit and who has what. And, oh, you're wearing your hat this entrance, but the next one you're carrying it, and you enter on this bar of music. And one of my favorite things to hear from a singer is, oh, I don't have to worry about anything except my music because you are taking such good care of us. But we're in opera, we're much more hands-on than in other performing arts. We cue every entrance. If the singer
send out
goes
the daily
on,
schedule.
Yes.
Like something just on a day-to-day. So you are always that person that the singers and that the production staff go to because, ostensibly you're the one that is communicating with them the most, because at least once daily you are sending out
Correct.
what they are supposed to do that next day.
Correct. And if I don't know the answer to whatever question they might have, pretty good chance I know who to get the answer from. So, I am sort of the problem solver and the anticipator and the everything.
Yeah.
The everything.
And it's a big job. It's a big logistical, organizational job in the room for sure.
It is. And something like Everest that I think we're going to look at in a little bit, that just had 5 principals and a primarily static chorus.
Of 24 members, I think, if I remember correctly.
Yes. But they didn't have, because of the way we did it as a concert, they didn't have entrances and exits and on and off, and it was less than something like, say, Turandot.
Right.
Right. So
with a huge chorus and many exits and entrances and set pieces and all of those elements that come to it. Yeah.
Acrobats and
all of the things.
Yeah.
Okay, so we go from the rehearsal room and then we get to the theater.
Right.
And so
it's just like the rehearsal room, only bigger.
Right. It's a rehearsal room on steroids. Plus we have a week. It's a week that we call between the first day we step foot in the theater to our opening night is our tech week. It's when we do all of the tech work that needs to happen. So that's all the lighting. That's all the scenic things that need to be fixed or adjusted. That's all of the last minute costume things, makeup things, wig things. All of those things happen during tech week. So take us a little bit through tech week and does your life change at all during tech week? From the rehearsal room?
The days get a little longer. But I love being in the theater, so it's the fun time, but it does become more intense. You are working on everybody else's schedule, and you're coordinating. For example, Austin Opera is not an AGMA company. AGMA is the Union for Singers and Production Staff, Dancers. But we do work with the IATSE for the stagehands and the AFM for the for the orchestra. So it's coordinating all of their schedules and their regulations. The last thing you ever want to do is go into overtime. So it's
we appreciate that you're so conscientious about that.
I'm sorry.
I said I appreciate that you're so conscientious about that.
Well, thank you. And boy, howdy, I don't ever want, if every once in a while you do have to go into overtime, but I don't ever want it to have to be because of me, because of something I did or a mistake I made or my team. It's going to be somebody else, and somebody else like you is going to make the call that we are going to break into the next quarter hour or whatever.
Right. A couple tech rehearsals that happen with piano. We have a couple rehearsals that happen with orchestra.
Yes.
One of which is our final dress rehearsal, which has an invited student audience.
Yes. And that is always the best because, no, truly, truly.
Agreed.
Because the students are such a great audience, and they are very honest in their reactions, and you know what kind of show you have by how they react. We did a Carmen some years ago, and when Carmen came out for her bow, they booed her, not because she did bad performance, but because they didn't like the character.
Wow.
They thought she was mean to Jose, and they didn't like her, and they booed.
Wow, I've never been in a room where the Carmen's been booed.
Yeah, it was. I mean, in all of the good ways of kids really being involved in the story, it was awesome.
That's fantastic. Awesome. Well, and they're always, those are the ones that you feel like, the singers always feel like they're rock stars at those performances, because those kids like scream like they're at a Bon Jovi concert.
Yes, they do.
Now I'm dating myself, so that's funny.
They love it. They're very genuine, and it's an awesome experience for them. I never had anything like that when I was, witness. I saw my first opera after I had graduated from college. So I think it's amazing what they're able to do, and the kids come in and they've already studied the piece and they learn. Anyway, I'm digressing.
Yeah, no, it's so, there's so many elements to it.
And everything just needs to, I guess in the short version is that my job is to make sure things continue to run consistently and safely, without going into overtime. So one of my big responsibilities is, and I do this with the assistant director, we create every day what's called a train schedule. So, we have 4 hours for this rehearsal, but we have to take a break here and a break here and the intermission and the scene change. And we kind of start at the beginning and the end and meet in the middle and say, if we aren't at the last act by this time, there's no way we can finish in the time allotted. And it just sort of, and then it's distributed to all the heads, and it helps us keep on task and recognize that, we have so much time, we can go back and fix this now, or no, we can't, we got to keep going, take a note and move on.
Exactly. Yep. And save it for another day.
Yeah. It's just a lot of organization. It's a lot of cutting out any dead time. As we've stopped. Why did we stop? Where are we going back to? Are we ready to get going again? Where, all of that.
Well,
what else can I tell you?
That's awesome. And I think this is a great time to kind of segue into our few clips that we have for the viewers. So Kathleen, you selected a few for us to watch. But what we also get to do, the first clip, we're going to have you kind of explain what's happening on stage and what the elements are, but we're not going to actually do a real calling of the show and of the cues. That will be, however, the second clip that you have selected from Everest, we're going to have the pleasure of actually seeing you side by side with your score and the music happening and the piece happening, calling the show so that we can see the cues as they go on. So let's go dive into the first clip. The first clip that you selected, I know it's a piece that you love very much and that you wish that we could do every year. But the first clip is from Silent Night by Kevin Puts and Mark Campbell. So why don't you tell us a little bit about why you chose this clip, and then we can go into the video.
Well, I was torn because I just kind of wanted to do the whole opera, but I picked it because there's just a lot going on. And it's when you first, like the very first time you see it or hear it, you don't know what to listen to and where to look. And there's just a lot. There's sound cues on top of the orchestra. There's lighting cues. There's projections. There's
3 armies, 5 languages.
3 armies, 5 languages. This opera. These armies had a truce on Christmas Eve. They got to know each other as individuals, and then they didn't want to go back to fighting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's pretty timely, even.
It's pretty timely and timeless.
So, it's something everybody should see. Every company should do. Anyway, and I'm feeling extra sentimental because I haven't done opera in a year. So
yeah. Well, we're going to change that really soon. But in the meantime, what's super fun is I actually get to give you the standby cue. Are you ready?
Ready.
Stand by.
Standing by. Okay, so there are 3 vignettes leading up to all of the principal characters going off to war. This is the French. His wife is cranky that he's leaving. She's pregnant. She doesn't want him to go. And he says, "Don't worry, I'll be back in a month." And you hear in the background the other armies singing off stage, mic'd, backstage conductor, getting ready to go to battle as well. And now we're going to reveal the bunkers one at a time. On the first level here is the other principals, and they're singing about their reasons for going to the war. And then the rest of them are going to reveal with a big wall that's moving. There is a scrim in front of all of this on which you can see clouds projected. And we're about to go into a big battle, which was very meticulously choreographed for safety, for consistency, for showing all of the stories, was rehearsed very often. We did a fight call every night before every rehearsal and performance where we go through each fight slowly and then at speed so that everyone has it fresh in their mind. So there's all of the 3 armies, the German, the Scottish, the French, and we're about to go to battle. I'm not sure quite where you're gonna cut it, but there's about to be a big bomb, an explosion, and off we go. This is within the first 10 minutes of the opera. Oh.
There we go.
We cut it before the bomb went off. That's okay.
Yeah. It's so fun to kind of look back at some of these archival clips and just remember every step of the way that it took to get to that point. Because even after, all of these archivals are being taken from our final dress rehearsal. So that's not even the end product really. So this is typically the last rehearsal is when we capture. And then we go and we have our opening night, and then we have 2 or 3 more performances after that the cast grows into, that the chorus settles into, the orchestra settles in, and it becomes more and more well-oiled every time we do it, which is just super exciting to see that evolution. Yeah. That was super fun, Kathleen. Let's do it again. Okay. So, the second clip that you picked was from Everest, by Joby Talbot and Jean Shear, which Austin Opera produced in January of 2020. It's actually the last opera that we've been able to produce fully since everything shut down. But why did you select this section from Everest?
Because I just think it's beautiful. It symbolizes the whole story. This starts with the 3 guys up on Everest, Rob, Doug, and Beck. Doug has died. Rob has stayed behind he was trying to help him, and then he just stayed to be with him. And they managed to patch him through on the satellite phone to his pregnant wife across the globe. And so she's on the phone with him when he dies. And then the 3rd guy, Beck, who was left for dead, isn't quite dead. He starts hallucinating. He hallucinates that his daughter is trying to find him, and he manages to save himself. And we have, this was a semi-staged concert. So the scenery is basically projections and some black boxes to represent the mountains. The chorus is on stage. The orchestra is on stage. Only the principals are in costume. It's still very involved, but in a much subtler way than, say, Silent Night. but I think it worked just as well. It was a very moving, strong. I mean, say what you will about people who want to go off and climb the mountains and leave their families behind and possibly,
Right.
but the story itself, the production itself, I thought was beautiful, evocative, emotional.
It was quite gripping. Yeah, it was quite gripping, and it really held you wrapped for the entirety. It's like 72 minutes, I think, in length, give or take a tempo cue here or there. But the great thing about this piece is that, and the way that we produced it, it allowed you an intimacy with the performers that maybe you wouldn't have with a full scenic concept going on.
Yes.
So the great thing about this is we actually get to hear you call cues.
Which I haven't done in a year now, so
for our audience, just to give it, so Kathleen will be calling cues for lighting, for projections. She'll be calling some different entrances and exits, and letting people know like when the end of the show is happening and some timings and stuff. So just be listening as we go through. It's really exciting to let Kathleen shine in this moment. And if you will indulge us, Kathleen, take it away.
Okay. Standby light cue 193. Lights, go. Stand by. Spot 3, fade out on Jan as slowly as possible on my call. You'll then change to no color and stand by to pick up Meg, down right, 5 counts, also on my call. Stand by spot 2 to pick up Beck in 5 counts on my call. Stand by spot 1, fade out in 10 counts on my call. Then spot 1, you'll pick up Rob and Doug together, 40%. 6 counts on your own when they stand on top of the mountain. Stand by the lights 195 through 213, tabs 115, 130, tabs is the video. Stand by Meg mic up and out, and all the remainder of the sound cues. This is a 5-minute warning on the traveler closing and the end of the opera. Lights 195, tab 115, spots 1 and 3 fading out. Go. Spot 3, go ahead and change to no color. Catch my breath. Sip of water. Lights 197, go. Tab 120, go. Lights 199, go. Tab 122, go. Lights 200, go. Meg is entering. Lights 201, go. Meg mic up, spot 3 on Meg, go. Tab 125, go. Spot 2 up on Beck, go. Make my count. Go. Lights 202. Go. Stand by all spots to quickly fade out on my call, and then you'll all change to frame 5 with bows. Sound key B2, go. Light key 203, go. Sound B 2.5, go. Stand by Traveler to close in 25 counts. Sound 2.7, go. Lights 205 and all spots fading out, go. Stand by Guy to enter, down left. Guy, go. Sound cue 2.9, go. Traveler, go. Light cue 207, cab 130, and sound cue W. Go. The end.
Oh, Kathleen, that was so fun.
Thanks. It's good to do that again.
Britt, just dusting off the cobwebs a bit, right?
Yeah.
Well, we cannot wait to have you. It's been so enjoyable to connect with you on this, and just to kind of learn more about your journey to this position and to this point in your life and your career. We could not ask for a better person to have in our room. So we are very grateful for you. And to that end, I just want to say thank you so much for joining us today. We will see you very soon next week.
Yes.
As we prep for this all-star concert with PBS, and then Tosca at Coda, Circuit of the Americas. Here we come.
Can't wait.
Well, I can't wait to see you. We will talk very soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll see everybody again next week for our next edition of Live from Indy Terrace. Have a great weekend.
You too. Bye.